thank you for sitting down with me. And I wanted to pick your brain because I know that we got to meet last week and kind of chat about a few things or early this week. And I thought, your story is quite awesome. And I think that a lot of people could get a lot of value out of it. So I just wanted you to maybe share some of the highlights, share a little bit about, kind of who you were, before joining StudentWorks, what you got out of StudentWorks. You just wrapped up 2 years, did incredibly well, some really, really big numbers. And then now kind of like what the next step, you joined our sister program or, our other kind of, company that we have called ProWorks Painting. So after, 2 awesome years of StudentWorks, now you're, kind of doing this all year round. So maybe if you want to, Daniel, just jump into who you were before StudentWorks and what life looked like at that point.
Yeah, so you said to kind of talk about the highlights, and I think we got to start with the lowlights, really. The where we came from is super important. So I was an automotive tech for about 8 years before I joined StudentWorks. I started when I was about 20 years old. Started working at U-Haul fixing trailers and trucks. Moved to Honda, became a gold level technician with Honda. Got my journeyman red seal. Was making pretty good money, but had no idea what I was doing with it. So I was kind of irresponsible with my money. I spent it very poorly, ended up in a lot of debt, and not like good debt, like bad consumer debt, like maxed out my credit cards, my line of credit, all sorts of stuff, just kind of spending it in the wrong places. If I could go back, I would do it differently, but it helped me learn a lot. Eventually realized that wasn't really working for me. The issue was I had kind of reached the cap of what I could earn while I was working with Honda. Being gold level, there's nowhere else to really go to. So I was making about $35 an hour, flat rate technician. Realized that my expenses and my bills were substantially higher than what I was bringing in for income, and that wasn't going to work for me anymore. So I started looking around. Luckily, having a red seal and all that kind of stuff, I was able to kind of choose different places. Ended up deciding to go to Ford. I actually took a pay cut to move to Ford. The reason that I did that is it was $32 an hour to go to Ford, but their cap was $45 an hour. But I had to do all their Ford training. And it was no sooner that I had gotten to Ford that we got hit with the COVID pandemic. And everything shut down, including all of the training centers. So now I'm making even less money. My bills and expenses are up here. I'm not bringing in enough income. It's not a workable situation. I realize that I'm effectively trapped and I don't know how to get out. And so I started kind of panicking a little bit. There was definitely a small period of depression where I was just kind of a zombie. Like I knew my life wasn't working. I couldn't afford to pay my bills. So what was slowly happening is the credit cards were just going up because I couldn't bring them down. Everything was going up and I was barely making a living. When you're a flat rate technician, I don't know if you know how that works, but you only make money if you're working on cars. And if there's no cars coming in the door because of the pandemic, you're not making any money at all. And so I started realizing that this is not something that I can do for 30 more years. It's not feasible. It's not going to make sense. And I didn't know what the solution was. And it was just kind of pure timing, I think, that I got the email from Student Life Network. It was super simple. I think it was something like, oh, do you want to have a cool summer job? And at the time I was trying to find a way to supplement my income. So I was like, okay, well, maybe there's some way that I can, be a technician and do this summer job thing. And I'll just get some more information. It can't hurt, right? And so ended up meeting with my DM, Connor, talked to him, I believe in September, had a really good conversation, got cold feet and didn't really pursue it. I kind of got scared because it was for me, I knew I was making okay money. I didn't know what I would make doing, StudentWorks. And I didn't want to put myself further into the hole because at this point, I'm probably $50,000 in debt, which is a substantial number when you're 26, 27 years old. And, I'm paying rent. I'm living with my girlfriend at the time, trying to make ends meet, figure everything out. And I was like, I don't know, maybe this is a lot of risk. So I sat on it for, I think, till just about December. Like I literally just made the cutoff before I could actually get in. So I ended up doing the interview with Corey Bartram. He's one of the VPs of StudentWorks. We had a great interview. I think he saw something in me that maybe I didn't see myself. And so I decided, okay, you know what, I'm gonna double down on me. I'm gonna take this risk and I'm just gonna try and we're gonna see what happens. So my initial plan was I kind of talked to my employer and I worked out a structure where I could still work at my job And then I would work 8 hours a day. And then in the evening, I would work on my student works business. And that was kind of my plan. I was like, okay, that way I can still have my income. I'll build this up. It'll supplement my income. I can keep kind of going. So that was my initial strategy. And so from about January to March, I did that where I would work 8 to 10 hours a day at my job. And then I would go out and I would cold call. I would just go and market by myself because I couldn't afford to pay any marketers. So I was just basically Monday to Friday, 3, 4 hours a night, just knocking on doors, minus 30 in Edmonton as it is here, and just grinding it out. And I was okay with it. And it was right around March that my employer decided to let me go. We had initially agreed upon me staying until June, but the problem was is I was kind of checked out. Like I wasn't really performing, and when you're not performing as an automotive tech, you're very much replaceable, which is something that I learned about. There's really no job security in terms of that, and at the time I was really pissed off about it. I was very upset. I look back at it now, and it was honestly probably one of the best things that could have happened to me because them letting me go, they gave me a severance check for it was about $3,000, and I could have easily taken that money and just paid my bills, but I was like, nope, we're going to take this money and we're going to put it into my business. So it was literally all the money that I had, I put into my business. So I was able to hire a couple of marketers to come out and market with me. And then I couldn't afford to send out money letters, which is like our flyers that we send out through StudentWorks. So I literally Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every morning for 2 hours, I would find a neighborhood and I would run out my money letters myself. So I was literally just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would go and jog in the morning and I drop off these money letters, and then the evening I was going back and knocking on these doors and just trying to drum up some business and get things going. And so that was very difficult. It was super hard. It really taught me about grit and tenacity and actually sticking it out and just seeing things through. And I really had no idea if the StudentWorks thing was gonna go well at all. But I had a decent preseason. I think I booked like 60 or so thousand in my preseason, maybe a little more. Um, and then, kind of survived off of that. But the other thing too is at the time I was renting a place, got let go of my job, didn't have income coming in, didn't have business income coming in. So I like realistically couldn't afford to live where we were. Our lease wasn't up until June. So I was able to talk to the landlords and figure out a structure where they would basically let us out of the lease if we could find somebody else to rent our place for them. So we figured that out. I begged Megan's parents to let us move in with them. So we rented out their basement suite for very little rent, which I'm very grateful for, so that I could get the business off the ground. So we had to take a massive step back and just kind of recoup and then dive into it from there. So that's basically kind of how I ended up into it. And we can kind of go from there. So I don't know if you have any questions about
Yeah,
it.
no, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I mean, like just massive adversity, to go from in debt, credit card debt, like the worst kind of debt, to
Yeah.
COVID, like tight on money, and then no money coming in, and then new job, and then hey, I'm gonna just try a new thing. I'm gonna run a business, and I've never done it before. Really don't even know much about who we are and what we're all about. But like you said, doubling down on yourself, betting on yourself, taking a chance, risk. And it paid off, right? You put the time in, and you didn't even have it, where like a traditional person on average who's doing this is in school, maybe not massive amounts of debt yet. They don't maybe have as many bills to pay that are really important because maybe they're living at home, or they have an older car or vehicle that they have that's paid for, whatnot. And maybe they have some student loans, that kind of stuff, or some savings, so they can invest in those little things like paying someone to knock on doors with them, or they can pay to mail out some flyers. So you couldn't do any of that. And but you didn't kind of come up with an excuse of, oh no, I can't do that, so that's just not going to happen. It's more like, no, this needs to happen, and this is how I'm going to make it happen, right? So I think that is huge. And yeah, I have your stats here. You're at the kind of 65-70,000 range right at the beginning of May, which is fantastic. You want to be around like that 40 to 50% of your overall business sales. So you had deposits coming in, you had jobs lined up, so at least things looked fairly promising. And you had 70K roughly by first week of May, and you finished the season at 175, right? Which is great. So a little bit even better, because sometimes people now book about 50% of their work in the preseason. So you came in with a little less than that percentage wise, which means you just pushed and put that much more work into the summer to get there. So how did things wrap up after your first year? And then what made you want to come back for a second year, and how did second year kind of go for you?
So after my first year, I did pretty good. Like we had a fairly healthy profit margin. The other thing is by having more control over my income, I was able to start, paying off debt. I asked for a loan from Megan's parents, which they were very fortunate enough to give me, and then I started doing some different debt hacking strategies. Because originally, at one point, I was looking at either bankruptcy or a consolidated loan, which effectively destroys your credit. And so I didn't want to go that route because I knew I wanted to get like a house and things like that. So I was like, okay, what can I do? So I asked them for a loan, paid off one of my credit cards. That freed up a lot of capital for me in terms of like what I could do. But it also did something else because I'd paid off that credit card. That credit card doesn't want to lose your money. So they offered me a balance transfer rate at 0%. So I took all the rest of my debt and I stacked it on that credit card at 0%. And I just started hammering payments on it to get rid of it. So by the end of the first year, I think I'd paid off somewhere in the range of 20 to 25 grand of my debt. I had made a decent income enough that I could survive over the winter months. I already had all the equipment and everything because I had, purchased it all through the business, everything like that. So I was like, it makes no sense to stop at this point. I honestly, truly believe, like in my core, if anyone's going to do student works, that they should do it for 2 years. Because the first year is going to just be a massive learning curve. I mean, the amount of stuff that I screwed up in my first year is astronomical. But it benefited me so much more in my second year, and I knew that it would, and I knew going into it that like I was never going to go back to fixing cars. Like it just wasn't going to happen. I knew that's who I didn't want to be, and I knew this was the only possible avenue out of it. Like where else can you get a business effectively with no experience, no real capital, like nothing to really invest into it and build it from the ground up. Like if I tried to do this on my own, there's no way, not even possible. So finishing my first year really taught me a lot. I was able to then take a lot of that knowledge and apply it into my second year. I had a little bit of extra capital instead of paying off my debt, which I probably should have. I took that money and I put it back into the business. My thought process being that I'll probably earn more profit percentage wise versus what I'm paying in debt. So again, I just bet on myself and I was like, I'm just going to make this happen. And so I had a little bit more going into my second year, which made it a lot easier and made it a lot more manageable. I could hire a marketing team. So we were able to use that. I could send out money letters. So there's a lot of things that I wasn't able to do in my first year that I had the benefits of now being able to do in my second year because of the capital and everything that we had pulled in. So going into my second year was a lot easier, a lot more relaxing in terms because there was a lot less unknown. I remember in my first year just kind of like sitting down with Connor, who's my coach, and just being like, what do I need to do? Like, just literally just tell me step by step what I need to do, help me build a schedule. And then I just stuck to that schedule and I just used that the entire way through the year and just committed to like, okay, whatever they say is what I'm going to do. And it worked. So,
Awesome.
um, yeah, so I think honestly, like going into the second year was a lot easier in terms of that. I had a lot more freedom, a lot more capital, was a little bit smarter. I'd run into a lot of the situations. It's funny because in my second year, something bad would happen. I'd be like, oh, I've already dealt with this. This is cool. Like, no big deal. This is what we're going to do. So it was a lot more fun in my second year. I had way more fun with my painters because the business was a little bit healthier. We could do more painter appreciation events. I would take them out. We'd do things like that. I had all the stuff already kind of set up and ready to go. And I had past clients that I could pull from to get more work and revenue. So second year was a lot more fun. I think we got not quite, I think we did about 75% more revenue, which is great. I was trying to double my business. I didn't realize how hard that would actually be to do.
You came close though. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so very cool. I had a lot of fun with it, and I have nothing but positive things from my experience with StudentWorks in that aspect.
Awesome. And yeah, and then so yeah, you almost doubled when your sales essentially. How was profit percentage though from first year to second year?
Much healthier. I didn't have any of the initial expenses because I already had crew kits, I had ladders, I had sprayers, I had all those things. So in terms of like out of pocket expenses, a lot lower. And then the overall profit percentage in the business, I was able to increase. Currently, it's about 5. I figure we'll end somewhere about 8% higher, which I think is substantial. So
Sweet. Yeah, no, 8%, and it's on a much larger number, right? So, substantially like, yeah, dollar per dollar, you're making substantially more money, but you ran a healthier business, on each and every job, while also spending more money on the business, like getting help, marketing team, spending money on employees and that kind of fun stuff. And then I know we did chat the other day, but where are you at now, I guess, life wise, like with debt, with, I know you're going on a trip, which is exciting. So, and you participated in the Spartan race, you're in shape, you're not cutting out things in your life to go all in on this. You're able to balance things. So maybe if you want to explain a little bit about just kind of where your life is at in general.
Yeah, so from about 3 years ago, we are in a much better place. I paid off all of my debt this year. So I was able to pay off all my credit cards, my loan, line of credit, everything like that. So I'm scotch free. I'm
Congrats. Yeah, that's exciting.
yeah. So, to go from about 50 grand to zero in 2 to 3 years is not something that I anticipated. I actually did a course with Enriched Academy. If you're ever wondering about money, I highly recommend it. It's very affordable. I think it cost me like $500 when I bought it. And it went through all of those kind of things. But one of the things they do is they do a debt crusher. And so you plug in all your numbers, like here's the credit cards, the interest rates, you put all that in there. And when the number came back, it said that I would pay off my debt if I continued paying it the way that I was by the year 2222. So 200 years from now, uh, effectively. And so that was super eye opening because I realized that like what I was doing just was not working. And I started really just hammering on it and really changing my life in that aspect. So financially, things got a lot better, mostly because my income improved. I effectively doubled my income from being a journeyman red seal by running my own business, which is not something that I thought I would do. In my first year, I was actually able to keep my income the same, which I thought was really, really good. And so that was really cool. Paid off everything. And so now I have a little bit of money set aside. I've started to build investments. I've started to, put money in TFSA, RSPs, things like that. And then, yeah, I do invest a lot in my own personal health. I like to stay in shape. My family life has done nothing but improve. We're a lot stronger now because I feel like also my mindset has improved. My emotional intelligence has improved. A lot of things that you get from being a business owner that I probably wouldn't have got had I continued to wrench. And then yeah, I do the Spartan races. I love those; they're fantastic. I'm going to continue to do them. I think next year I'm going to go for it's called the trifecta. So it's basically a 5, a 10K, and a 21K all within the same year. So that's my goal for next year. I want to keep doing that while also still running the business. So in terms of like my personal life, it's just gotten miles better. I read substantially more than I did when I was in automotive tech. I don't think I picked up a book besides automotive books in the 8 years that I was doing that. And as you can see from the shelf behind me, those books on this row here I read last year. Probably do a similar amount this year. So
Amazing. Yeah. No, super inspiring, super impressive. Thank you for sharing that. And I think, yeah, sometimes a lot of people, are nervous to kind of take the leap, because they have something concrete, you had something concrete, but sometimes you need to do that kind of self-reflection to realize, is what I have actually working? Is this who I want to be? Fast forward 5, 10, 15 years from now, what am I going to get out of it? And I know that, mental health wise, it's like, well, you might think running a business is challenging, but being in massive debt is also very, it weighs on you, right? So being able to kind of tackle that, all of a sudden doors open, right? Things change and you can, get out of debt, you can learn things, you can then start to invest and grow, invest in yourself, go on trips, go to the gym, stay healthy, be there for people in your life, family, significant others, all that kind of stuff. So it's not easy, but it's very attainable. And I mean, you did it in a very short time, which is super, super cool. You're still super young, but to be able to just kind of flip the switch and do a full 180 that in kind of 2.5 years is really impressive. And then now you get a new opportunity of jumping into a full-fledged all year round painting business, right? So you're now a new franchisee in a new business, and can do that for X amount of years and really make the most out of it. So super impressive. So yeah, thank you for sharing all of that.
yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow, and I'm excited for the ProWorks opportunity that I've got, and yeah, just kind of continue doing what I've done that's made me successful in the past, and it's been a really really cool learning curve for the last 2.5 years.
Awesome. Amazing. And if you had any advice for anyone that was maybe on the fence about joining StudentWorks, what would that be?
Get off the fence.
Yeah, it's that
Take a
simple. Just do it.
no, seriously, take a chance. I mean, like I waited like 2 months before I actually made the decision. And it really didn't matter that much in the end, but I think I would do it sooner. Like bet on yourself. You know who you are as a person. You know the skills that you have. You know who you could be, and maybe you don't. But at the end of the day, like bet on yourself. Take a chance. Get off the fence. You have nothing but gains here if you actually put the effort in. So
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for sitting down.
yeah, absolutely.